In the Hindu scriptures, there is never a dogmatic statement or a command like thou shalt do this or thou shalt not do this. If there is any suggestions or recommendations in the scriptures, it is always preceded by a lengthy explanation as to the logic and reason behind such suggestion or recommendations. So in keeping with that, Lord Krishna has given several arguments to Arjuna that he should fight the war, do his obligatory duties without selfish interest. And then we heard Lord Krishna say that each and every one of us have an added responsibility to conduct ourselves in such a way that we set an example for others to follow. As I said, inasmuch as we admire and imitate somebody, there are others who look up to us, and higher we are on the social ladder, the more the responsibility for us to conduct ourselves. Now, physical work only builds the body, but when the head and heart are brought into play, it adds a glow to the work and adds luster to that person's personality. And that's what Karma Yoga is all about. Arjuna is still not fully convinced, even after all these arguments that were given by Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna resorts to the usual final argument that most of us do. See, when we try to instill a certain ideal in our young children, and they don't seem to understand or they don't follow what we are trying to say, as a last resort, we tell them, look, I'm not trying to tell you something that's impractical. Look at me. Am I not doing this? Am I not following the principles that I'm telling you to follow? Krishna uses the same argument, and he tells Arjuna, do you remember in the early part of the chapter that everyone is supposed to be doing their obligatory duties, except one exception, and that is those who are self-realized are exempt from doing their obligatory duties. So Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, and I claim that exception. Now, up to now, Arjuna's opinion of Krishna is a very low one. He thinks that he is a village cowherd boy that he brought to the capital Hastinapur, and because of his patronage, Krishna is enjoying social status right now. He does not know that Lord Krishna is the Lord Maheshwara himself. But in the last two lectures that he had given in chapter 2 and chapter 3, Arjuna had begun to respect Krishna a little bit more, because Krishna seemed to be talking at his level and giving discourses which make sense and logic. But then, when Krishna claims that he is exempt from obligatory duties, Arjuna questions or has a questioning look. Why do you say that you are exempt? To that, Lord Krishna says, I have nothing to gain in this world. Because if you really analyze our actions, we have desires to acquire and to get things. And that is because of a sense of inadequacy. Whatever we lack, we look out for to acquire and to get. If I am totally complete, there is no inadequacy within me. I have no reason to reach out into this world. A realized person is one who is like that. He is complete within himself. Therefore, he has no desires. So Lord Krishna says, I have nothing to gain by working or going out into this world. And I have nothing to lose by not doing any work. This world does not hold any charm for me. And yet, don't you see me working 16 to 18 hours every day, working for you? And I don't take time off, I don't take weekends off. And have I ever asked you to pay me for anything? Have you ever paid me a penny for whatever that I am doing? And all of a sudden, Arjuna opened his mouth and he realized that is true. He had been working and never asked for even a penny, and yet he seemed perfectly cheerful and happy with whatever that he is doing. So Arjuna tells Lord Krishna, why have you been doing this? Why didn't you ask me that you needed something? He said, I don't need anything. So then why were you doing all this? To that Lord Krishna says, for the sake of keeping the society together, Loka Sangraha, meaning there are people who look up to me. If I sit idle and not work constantly, they also would follow my example, and then the society will crumble. For that sake, I kept on working. Now, as a political leader, Arjuna, having heard all these discourses from Lord Krishna, would most likely, after the war, go back to his kingdom and order everybody to stop working. Why? Because he had heard that you have to work without selfish interest, and everybody is working with selfish interest. So he would order all the citizens in his kingdom to stop working, and there will be training centers set up at different places. Everybody would be asked to go to these training centers where they would be taught as to how to work without selfish interest. Krishna realizes that this is probably what Arjuna is going to do, so he warns him, don't ever bring about buddhi veda, meaning turmoil in people's minds by telling them to stop work and do something totally different. Why? For a few reasons. Number one, anybody who stops working, it will be very difficult to restart working again. Now, Gurudev says, we as human beings, we have starting trouble. You see in every place, school after vacation, on the first day after vacation, there is no school in this whole world that starts off with their normal curriculum. It takes a few days or maybe a week for everybody to start getting back into the rhythm. At work, anybody works full day on a Monday? No, because on Monday you have to talk about what you did on the weekend. So you take it easy on Monday, you don't get into the full rhythm of work. And when Friday comes, you don't work because you talk about what you're going to do on the weekend. So when the weekend comes, everybody is so busy trying to put into action what they have been thinking for relaxation on the weekend. but it is so hectic that by the time Sunday comes, they are so tired and weak. And our Gurudev says, that's why it's called weekend. You get weakened on the weekend and you drag yourself to work on Monday. So anyway, the point is that don't stop work. You keep working anyhow. Second reason and most important reason is that these changes that Lord Krishna is suggesting has to be an evolution, a slow evolution, not a revolution. You can bring about abrupt changes under the gun, like in a dictatorship, that you can tell people this is how it should be done and everybody will do it, and those who don't do it would be punished. You can bring about changes like that. But those kind of changes will last only for a very short time. Look at the communism in Russia. It lasted 55 years. And then people went back to the normal pattern of living again. So these changes have to be a slow evolution. Anything fast is destructive. Look at nature. If there is a slow breeze, you will enjoy that breeze. If that breeze gets a little more speed and momentum, it will be a big storm and it could destroy things. Water when it is flowing slowly, you enjoy that water, you can use that water for washing and so on. But if that water gathers speed and momentum and is rushing through, it can destroy things. So everything in life is like that. Anything slow is good. Fast is destructive. So he warns Arjuna, do not bring about abrupt changes. Then he says, you and I have taken this body as dictated by our own past actions called vasana. Our vasanas determine this body, and these vasanas determine the kind of environment that is most suited for me to exhaust these vasanas. So the body, mind and intellect and the objects, emotions and thoughts in that outer world are all determined by my own vasanas. Gunaha guneshu vartande. That means it is dictated by my vasanas and it tells me what environment that I should be in. But we identify ourselves with these matter envelopments, that body, mind and intellect. We think that we are this body, and then identifying with our body, mind and intellect, we suffer all these things that are happening in our lives. A wise man knows better. He knows that this body is because of my vasanas. These environments and the things that are happening to me and the situations that I am in are all dictated by my vasanas. So he peacefully goes through those circumstances and comes out without any agitation or misery. So when we assume that we are the people who are trying to do these things without the correct understanding in our minds, if anything good happens, we think we have done something great. If something bad happened, we want to know how we deserve this kind of a bad thing that is happening to us. Our Gurudev gave this example, and I want to repeat that example again. This father, mother and the 4-year-old child, they were going to visit their relative for dinner. So they left their house around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The drive is about 3-hour drive to their relative's house. So on the way, the man is driving, his 4-year-old son is seated in the passenger seat and the wife is in the back seat. As usual, she is doing the driving for him from the back seat. she will say, don't turn left, go fast, don't go slow, or don't go fast, and all those things, which were aggravating the driver to no end. But yet he kept on going. As they were nearing their destination, the car had to go over a mountain to reach that house. And it was getting dark at that time, and as the car was going on high gear on the mountain, the man accidentally looked at the dashboard and he made an exclamatory remark, "Uh-oh." So the wife wanted to know what's wrong. So he said, "There's no gas." If the needle is on empty, it doesn't mean that there is no gas at all. It just means that maybe within the next 5 or 10 miles you need to stop at the gas station and fill up. But then she started abusing him. "I knew this is going to happen. When we passed that last gas station, I wanted to tell you, but I thought you knew," and blah 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 and so on. So the man kept quiet, and in that sunset twilight, his face looked red. So the boy looked at the father. He knew that the father was upset. He said, "Papa, don't worry." And he stood up on the seat, put his tiny hands on the dashboard and said, "Papa, I'm going to push the car. Don't worry. Whether there's gas or not, I'll push the car." Now, which father would say anything other than, "Good, my son, I'm very happy that you are here. Keep pushing the cars, my son, we'll get there." So he keeps pushing, and the car goes over the mountain, and then they reach their destination. As soon as they reach the destination, the boy gets down from the car and runs into their house and says to the uncle, "Uncle, we wouldn't have reached here today if not for me. I pushed the car. Ask Daddy." And the daddy also says, "Yes, if not for my son, we won't be here." So everybody congratulated that boy. Now, we might laugh at that story, but Gurudev says we are all like that boy. We think we are the ones who are doing all this, when in actual fact it is not. Our vasanas are doing everything. They are the ones who are dictating our circumstances and our actions and so on. But we, identifying with this body, we think that we are doing it. And this is the incorrect way. But correct understanding alleviates a lot of anguish and suffering. So if I own a mansion of 7 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms, and yet I'm in a dingy hospital room and I'm complaining. Why am I in this dingy hospital room? I should be in my home, in my comfortable bed. Well, I am in that hospital room only because my body dictates that I need to be there. It is the need of my body is that I need to go through this hospitalization, get myself healed, and then I can go back to my home. In the same way, everything that is happening may not be conducive, but yet we have to go through those experiences. We are driven by egocentric desires. The wise man also has desires. Now, it is our desires that drive us to action. The wise man also has desires, but his desires are sattvic. A good example given by Gurudev about the desires that a wise man has or a realized master has. He also has desires. But the example is, if you take a teaspoon of water and put a pinch of salt in it and mix it and taste it, it will taste salty. Now you take the teaspoon of salt water and put it into a small cup of water and mix it and then taste that water. That salt is still there that I put in, but the taste is not that salty. So I take that glass of water and put it into a big jar of water and then mix it and then taste that water. There will be hardly any taste of salt in that. Can we say that there is no salt in that? No. That original pinch of salt that I put into that teaspoon is still in there. But it doesn't taste salty because it is diluted by so much of water. In the same way, the wise man also has desires, but his desires are not for himself and his own narrow, small circle of things and people that he wants. His love for the humanity. He does things for everybody. So it is a vast area and vast aspect that he is serving. Therefore, his desires are diluted. Whereas for you and me, it is a concentrated thing. And then we come to this famous verse which I had said last time. My sarvani karmani sanyasa adhyatma shetashaha nirasisa nirmamo bhutva yuddhasva virat jwaraha. What does that mean? My sarvani karmani sanyasa. Sanyasa means renounce. My sarvani karmani, meaning renounce all your actions at my altar. Now, how do we do that? We are doing that all the time. We work every day. We do things because we want to satisfy a certain altar. Like, say, I am working so that I can provide for my family. So my family is my altar. I am able to withstand setbacks at work, problems at work. And I deal with that only because I need the income that I get to support my family. So like that, we all have our own altar that we work for. There may be somebody who works for their profession. So the bigger the altar or the higher the altar, the better your performance. And this altar gives you the inspiration to keep on working. Gurudev says, when a young man goes for an interview for a job, one of the questions that they may ask is, are you married? If he says no, the chances are sometimes that he may not get the job. Why? Because if you are not married and you are single, you won't withstand any problems at work. If there's a problem, you'll just say, I'm resigning, and you go away. So this boy who goes for the interview has good credentials. His certificates are good, his past performance at work is all good, and sure enough, when they look at it, he has not stayed in any job for more than 2 years. He works well, but if there's a problem, he immediately leaves the job and goes somewhere else. But if you are married, you can do anything, you can kick him, you can do anything you want. He'll stay on the job and go over and suffer the consequences there at work. Why? Because he has a wife and children to support. So that's the kind of altar that that they work when you go for work. But if you have a higher altar, like Mahatma Gandhi had he was just a lawyer and an insignificant one at that. But once he got this ideal, freedom for my 400 million people in India, once he got that ideal in his mind, there was no stopping him. He began to grow in stature, and things that he was able to do was unimaginable by any average person. That's the kind of inspiration that you get when you have a higher ideal. So the advice given by Lord Krishna is, keep your ideal higher. My sarvani karmani is, that means you surrender yourself at my altar. Now, how to surrender ourselves when we work? Basically, from a practical standpoint, take the selfish motive out of your work. Automatically, your work becomes for the higher altar. And then the Lord says, when you have that inspiration to do your work, make sure that you don't dissipate that inspiration. And normally we dissipate in the 3 periods of time. How? By regrets about the past. In the past, we might have had many failures. So when we think about that, I'm inspired to pass that exam and get a better job. So I'm studying and I go for the exam. When I go for the exam, I suddenly remember the 3 times that I have already failed. And I think to myself, there is no way I'm going to pass this exam. So why bother? Now the moment that thought comes in, I'm not going to do well in my exam. So therefore, stop thinking of your past failures. The other way of dissipating your energy is anxieties about the future. What if I don't pass this exam? Then what happens? Then I'm not going to get any job, I'm going to be unemployed, I'll be a burden to the society, and so on and so forth. The moment that thought comes to my mind and I'm worrying about that, naturally I'm not going to perform well at the examination. That's the second way by which I dissipate my energy. And thirdly, by the excitement of the present. And that's what the last verse says. Virat Jwaraha, the feverish excitement of the present. I get so excited that I need to do so many things that I end up doing nothing. So therefore, make sure that you don't dissipate your energy and inspiration in any of these 3 periods of time. And the Lord says, this, whatever that I have given you, this method by which you can achieve success is my opinion. What did he mean by that? Lord Krishna is saying this. It is not written in the Vedas or in the scriptures, but this is what I am telling you is my opinion. A mother, unfortunately, this word mother was translated as religion. So that is not the correct translation. In Sanskrit, mata means opinion. So Kristava mata means the Christian philosophy that Jesus Christ gave, his opinion. Muhammad gave his opinion, and that becomes the Muhammadiyya mother, and so on. So here Krishna says, this is my mother. Follow it with faith and without cavilling. He says, you follow what I have said, because I have given reasons as to why I am saying this. Follow that with faith. Now, that faith is very important. What does faith mean? Gurudev says that there are many definitions of faith, but the best definition of faith was given by Rabindranath Tagore. And he said, faith is that bird that starts singing and chirping, sensing the light that's going to come, even though the dawn is still dark. The dawn is still dark, but the bird senses the light that's going to come and starts singing and chirping. That is faith. So Lord Krishna says, have faith. We do our daily activities with a lot of faith. We don't realize that. Even for example, when you are driving on the road, we are driving because we have an implicit faith in the other driver that he would also follow the traffic rules. He is coming along in his lane and I am going in my lane. I have faith that he is not going to come into my lane all of a sudden. So if I can have faith in my fellow being, why can't I have faith in the Lord Himself? He is saying, have faith in God, have faith in the scriptures, and have faith in yourself. So do this, whatever I am saying, with faith and without cavilling. Cavilling is where you dismiss something without even thinking. So Lord Krishna says all that and you say, oh, this is all, empty philosophy. This is not practical. Well, if somebody is going to teach you swimming inside your living room and gives you pictures and drawings and shows books on how to swim, you can read about it, you can look at it, but will you ever learn swimming by reading that book? You have to go out into that water in the swimming pool and try it out, and then only you will know whether what they have been teaching you is correct or not. In the same way, when Lord Krishna is giving you all these ideas, we need to kind of accept it with faith and try it out to know whether it is working or whether it is true or not. That's what to do without cavilling. And when you do it that way, you will have peace and happiness. Now, after listening to all these discourses from Lord Krishna, any average person can understand the logic, and we can repeat that without any problem. What? You do your daily activities without controlling your senses, without any selfish interest, and with inspiration, with a higher ideal, and do not let those ideals dissipate in the 3 periods of time. Anyone can repeat that. But having known that, do you think we'll be able to practice it? We won't be able to. Why? Because of our vasanas. So even though we have all this knowledge and we understand what Lord Krishna is saying, Lord Krishna Himself is saying, even though you understand everything, I know you are not going to be able to practice it. Why? Because of your vasanas. Your vasanas will dictate to you the same old ways that you have been doing in the past. But change slowly. Again, that word slowly. Very gradual changes with the ideas that you have learned. Try to put them into practice in very small steps. And there are likes and dislikes. When we live in this world, we develop likes and dislikes. I have mentioned this before also. We divide this world into things that I like and things that I don't like. And our life history is going after things that I like and going away from the things that I don't like. And somehow the irony of life is that the things that I don't like keeps following me, and the things that I like always run faster than I can. That's the irony of life. Lord Krishna says, try not to come under the sway of these likes and dislikes. Because if you have extremes of likes and dislikes, it can destroy you. Keep your likes and dislikes under control and be aware of your likes and dislikes, and do not come under its sway. Karma Yoga has been very effective in reducing these extremes of likes and dislikes, because these extremes of likes and dislikes are potential destructive forces in us. Now, when he finishes that, he goes to the next concept of dharma. Now, this word dharma in Sanskrit has many meanings. In the Sanskrit dictionary, that word dharma has definition in 3 columns on each page, like that about 6 pages. So about 18 columns of definition for dharma, and at the end, the author of that lexicon says, etc., 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 meaning these are only some of the definition of dharma. There are many, but these are some of the definitions. So, what is dharma? In this context, dharma is the essential nature of a thing. Now, everything in this world has properties. Anything that is without property is not a thing. Any substance has properties, like form and color and taste and shape and so on. Now, every property has either essential property or non-essential property. For example, sugar can be white, it can be crystalline, it can be rocky, it can be powder. These are all non-essential properties of sugar. But the essential property of sugar is sweetness. So something may look like sugar, but if it is not sweet, it is not sugar. So the dharma of sugar is sweetness. In that context, the dharma of human beings, and for that matter, the dharma of all living beings, is that life spark. Because if without that life spark, I am not who I am. I would be manual. So what makes me who I am and what makes the animal what it is that life spark. So the dharma of all living beings is that life spark. And then each one of us are different. Although our dharma is that life spark, I am different from you, you are different from the other person, and so on. What makes us different? There is, each one of us have different vasanas. So that is called the Swadharma. So my Swadharma is my vasana. Your Swadharma is your vasana. So my dharma is my life spark, but my Swadharma is my own vasana. Krishna says, live up to your Swadharma. Even though your Swadharma may not be the ideal. He tells Arjuna, I know your dharma or your Swadharma is that you are a Rajasic person, you are a Kshatriya. You are not the highest Sattvic type of person. Yet you need to live up to your Rajasic personality. Don't try to be a Sattvic person when you are not that. Because you will be wasting your life away trying to be something that you are not. It's any day better that you live up to your Swadharma. And that's the statement. The non-essential and essential properties. Life spark is the dharma of a living thing. Swadharma. Now with that, basically, Lord Krishna had finished talking about Karma Yoga. But at that moment, Arjuna thought that this is the best opportunity for me to ask a doubt that I have always had. And he asked Krishna, what is this dark, dreary force that makes me compromise my better judgment and do things wrong? Now, there is a thing called sin. They talk about sin in all religions. What is a sin? If I do something unknowingly, it is not a sin, because I don't know that it is wrong. But if I know something is wrong and yet I compromise and I do it, that becomes a sin. So the question that Arjuna is asking is, even though I know that it is wrong, what is it in me that compels me to do the wrong thing? Now in all religions, this thing is deified. In Christianity, they call it the satanic force, the Satan. So when somebody does wrong, they say the Satan made him do that. In Islam, they call it Sahuta. In Buddhism, they call it Mara. And even in the lower Hindu scriptures, they talk about the Rakshasic forces. Now, so much so that all these religions believe that these negative forces, the satanic force or the Sahutan or Rakshasic forces, are so strong that they are even stronger than the divine forces within us. That they can make us do things wrong in spite of the divine force that's present in us. So Arjuna's question is, what is this dark, dreary force that makes me compromise against my better judgment? The Lord answers, it is called desire. It is called rage. Now he used those two words. Now they are not two separate things. They are one and the same. Desire is an irresistible, compelling urge to acquire a thing of my liking. That is called a desire. Now when that desire comes into my mind, it veils my intellect. And when my intellect is veiled, my wisdom is in my intellect, and that is veiled by this desire. Then my mind gets into a state of agitation to acquire the thing that I want, and the body follows through and acts on it. And this is how we make mistakes all the time. So desire. That desire is the one that drives us to do wrong things. And when we want to acquire something, and the desire is so strong, and if something objects or there's an obstacle that prevents us from reaching our goal, then that desire turns into anger against that obstacle that is standing in our way. These two, the desire and the rage, are the dark, dreary force that prevents us from acting to a better judgment and wisdom. Now, all thinking human beings know right and wrong. Every human being knows what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. It is only when it comes to action that we try to compromise. But as far as the knowledge is concerned, we all know what is right and what is wrong. It is when we come to the action part that the desire that comes in and veils our thinking, and then we do it. This desire, since it is so powerful that it could compromise our own better judgment, has been studied a little bit more and analyzed in the scriptures. These desires are of three types: the sattvic desire, rajasic desire, and the tamasic desire. Sattvic desires, the example given for sattvic desire is like a fire that is surrounded by smoke. If there is an open fire here, it has yellowish or orangish glow. That orangish glow is because of the smoke that is covering that fire. If a small, slight wind passes by and blows the smoke away, you see the bright yellow flame. So that thin film of smoke covers the fire, and the real glow of the fire is covered by the smoke. But it can easily be removed by blowing a slight air into the fire. The rajasic type of desire is equivalent to dust that had accumulated on a mirror. Suppose you have gone on a vacation somewhere and you come back after about 3 weeks or a month. The mirror in your house is all covered by dust. This rajasic desire is like that. Your reflection you won't be able to see on the mirror. Why? Because it is covered by the dust. That dust cannot be blown by air. Just like how you can blow the smoke away from the fire and you see the glow. You have to take a cloth and not just wipe the mirror. It won't go. You have to wipe it one way and then you wipe it the other way, and then there's some effort required to keep on wiping in different directions till you remove the dust. That's the rajasic desire. The tamasic desire is equated to the baby in the womb of a mother. The baby is inside the womb, but you cannot see the baby. You got to work at it for 9 months before the baby can be seen. And it takes a lot of effort for a longer period of time, like 9 months, before you can see the baby. So in the same way, these desires, sattvic, rajasic and tamasic, require different kinds of efforts to remove it. And where do these desires reside? It resides in 3 different places: the body, the mind and the intellect. In the body, it's in the sense organs. Then in the mind, it comes as agitations and restlessness. And in the intellect, it comes as desire, as thoughts and ideas. How do you get rid of these desires? You start off at the grossest level, which is at the sense organs. So if there is a desire that I am aware of, that I don't want to give in to, I got to control my sense organs, control it at the body level and refuse to act on it. Now that may be just suppression, and suppression is not a very healthy way of dealing with any problem. But yet it's only a temporary situation. You suppress it and then you work on your mind to reduce the agitation and restlessness regarding that. And then you go to the intellect, where you try to analyze and compromise. The word we use is sublimate in your intellect the desire that had come into your mind. So when a bad thought, a negative thought comes to my mind at my intellectual level, the best way to deal with that is not to encourage that thought. Because if I keep dwelling on that thought gathers momentum. For example, if I see a piece of chocolate cake out there, I could not help looking at it. But so that thought had come into my mind that there is a nice piece of chocolate cake out there. I am a diabetic and I should not be eating chocolate cake. But I keep on thinking in my mind, maybe after eating the chocolate cake, if I go for a walk for about 2 miles, I can burn off that calorie. Or maybe I'll cut back on my dinner tonight. Now these are additional thoughts that I have added to my mind after seeing that cake. So I have given that original thought of that cake a lot of power by these additional thoughts. So much so, when I finish this talk, I'll go straight for that cake. I cannot say I couldn't help it. I saw it, so I went and ate it. That's not the case. I encourage the thought in my mind. So the recommendation is that when that thought comes to my mind, I just say to myself right then and there, I'm a diabetic, I don't need that. If I do that, I'll have complications later on, and I dismiss that and I focus on what I'm doing now. After a while, that thought loses its power and it disappears. So control it at the intellectual level. Start off by controlling, by not acting on the desire, then reduce the agitation, and then nip it in the bud, so to speak, at the intellectual level. Where it has three sides. How to eliminate the desire, start at the grossest level, refuse to indulge. Sublimate at the mind level, reduces the agitation, intellectual level, do not encourage or empower. With that, we conclude chapter 3, and the next discourse will start on chapter 4. Thank you.